Here's your wrestling news for April 21st, 2021. And if you like what you're watching, smash that like button and give us 1,000 likes or more. And your headlines for today include: match with huge title implications announced for next week's NXT. First WWE NXT title challenger for Karrion Kross revealed. Why advertised match was pulled from WWE Raw this week. Why did John Cena become a viral sensation? Guys, you don't want to miss this. Randy Orton suffered an injury on Raw. Fans drag AEW social media over hilarious botched tweet. CM Punk spoke honestly about his wrestling return. Charlotte Flair breaks silence after getting suspended by WWE. Yet another outbreak in the company that WWE successfully covered up. Vince McMahon makes a shocking decision. Is this the beginning of the end for the old man? Former WWE superstar announces retirement, and more. We are kicking off today with WWE, and for next week's episode of NXT, 3 huge matches have been confirmed, with some pretty big title implications for one superstar. Next week, Bronson Reed will face Austin Theory, and if he wins, he'll earn another title shot at NXT North American Champion Johnny Gargano. After retaining his Cruiserweight title this week, Kushida will team with MSK to face Legado del Fantasma next week, whilst Mercedes Martinez will face Dakota Kai. Martinez has promised to take Kai out en route to Kai's best friend and NXT Women's Champion Raquel Gonzalez, and we'll have to see if the veteran wrestler fulfills that promise next week. Speaking of the gold brand, Kyle O'Reilly kicked off last night's show with a promo that saw him get into it with Cameron Grimes, but that promo also was a shot at NXT champion Karrion Kross. Saying he needs that killer instinct to be on top of NXT, a shot at Kross's pre-WWE name, the pair had a stare down backstage later in the show, where the champion smirked. It certainly seems like WWE are teasing that O'Reilly will be Kross's first challenger, especially after Kross tweeted O'Reilly's Killer Instinct line after the show. Both men won big in NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver, with Kross becoming NXT champion and O'Reilly defeating Adam Cole, and it looks like the two will be facing each other soon enough. Last night's NXT also saw the in-ring debut of Sarai, who was pushed to her limits in a highly entertaining match. Defeating Zoe Stark in her debut, Sarai showed her respect, hugging her opponent after the match, and whilst their feel-good moment was cut short by Toni Storm attacking Stark, it was still an impressive debut for Sarai. Over to Raw now, and this week's show was advertised with the first ever singles collision between Braun Strowman and Randy Orton, but that match never happened. Instead, Orton faced Matt Riddle, whilst Strowman aided Drew McIntyre later in the show, and WWE gave no explanation as to why plans had suddenly changed. It's known that Vince McMahon was late to the creative meeting earlier that day, and according to PW Insider, the decision to ditch the announced Orton-Strowman match was part of the boss's plan. We are told that when today's production meeting began for Raw, the match had already been changed to Orton vs. Riddle without explanation, and instead, Braun was written into the Drew McIntyre storyline, so it was a Vince McMahon call. Instead of facing Orton, Strowman teamed with Drew McIntyre to face T-Bar and Mace, and given that this has taken him closer to the WWE title picture, things seem to have worked out well for the Monster Among Men. It's no secret that John Cena has sported plenty of great looks in the past, and if you're a keen herpetologist, you'll know that frogs have also had plenty of looks, and thanks to a Twitter thread, those two worlds have collided. On Twitter, user Jack Goodwin compiled a thread of the 16-time WWE World Champion as frogs, showing off some of Cena's many colorful shirts from his career, paired with equally colorful amphibians. It wasn't long until this thread hopped into being viral, as each frog, whether they be red, blue, green, purple, pink, or black, matched Cena's look to a T. Given how colorful Cena has been throughout his career, there's no shortage of things he could be compared to, but we don't think it's going to get any better than frogs. Which of Cena's many colorful looks is your favorite? Let us know in the comments. Over to Raw, and after originally being scheduled to face Braun Strowman, Randy Orton came up short against Riddle instead, who surprised the Legend Killer with a roll-up. Losing to the former US champion is the least of Orton's concerns, as during the latest Wrestling Observer Radio, Brian Alvarez reported that Orton suffered an injury during the match. He explained, He was fighting out of the corner and Riddle went to give him an exploder, and Randy of course didn't take an exploder. He blocked it and he pulled back and did this very dramatic punch, and he punched him, and then from that point forward he could no longer use his right arm. Orton's history of arm and shoulder injuries is well known, and Alvarez compared this latest injury to an incident at Over the Limit 2010 where he separated the shoulder during punching the mat. Given that Orton has hypermobile shoulders, it's especially easy for him to separate them, and hopefully this latest injury won't keep the Viper out of action for too long. AEW news next, and while they may poke fun at WWE a lot, the All Elite promotion isn't safe from making a mistake or being mocked by the fans for it. On Twitter, the official AEW account promoted tonight's Stacked Dynamite card, which includes Jim Ross sitting down with the Pinnacle to discuss their upcoming Blood and Guts match. Someone from AEW clearly hit send too early, as the tweet merely promoted that JR will be sitting down tonight on live TV at 8 p.m. on TNT. Fans were quick to make fun of the botch, with one sarcastically questioning why AEW would give an event this huge on free TV, and many screenshotted the tweet before AEW were able to delete it. The company quickly put up the correct tweet, highlighting JR's sit-down interview with the Pinnacle tonight, and were wondering what the legendary commentator will do next after he sits on a chair tonight on live TV. This past January marked 7 years since CM Punk left WWE, and whilst the former world champion has teased a return to the ring, he's not too serious about it. Many fans perked up when Punk said he wanted a match against Will Ospreay during StarCast, and that excitement has only increased given that Ospreay has responded. While speaking to Digital Spy though, Punk admitted that he doesn't want to give fans false hope about a wrestling return, explaining, "I don't want to give people false hope in answering Ospreay, but he's for sure somebody that I've never wrestled before that interests me a lot more than, I guess, the corporate side of professional wrestling nowadays." Punk added that if Ospreay still interests him by the end of this summer, then he may reconsider his stance. As though the former world champion doesn't want to give people false hope, he's more than happy continuing to tease a match with Will Ospreay. Back to WWE, and on Raw, Charlotte Flair was fined $100,000 and suspended indefinitely for attacking a referee, and now the Queen has broken her silence. On Twitter, Flair branded the fine, the suspension, and Adam Pearce a joke, adding that she and Asuka were having a classic match, which was ruined by Rhea Ripley, who she called a petulant child with Road Warriors cosplay shoulder pads. Flair was expected to challenge for the Raw Women's title at WrestleMania Backlash, but that may not be the case now, and who knows when we'll see the Queen next thanks to this suspension. Flair's attack on the ref was one of the highlights from this week's Raw, but it was apparent that the show didn't have the entire roster available. That explains why so many plans were changed before the show, and during Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer explained that there was another outbreak in WWE, but the company isn't talking about it. Meltzer explained that this shorthanded roster is why this week's Raw lacked so many big names, but didn't specify who has tested positive. Two notable absences this week are the Raw Tag Team Champions Omos and AJ Styles, who haven't been seen since the WrestleMania 37 victory, but for now, the Red brand will have to make do with fewer stars on its roster. Now, as chairman of WWE, Vince McMahon has the final say on everything in WWE. And whilst he's never even hinted that he wants to slow down, there are some things beyond the control of the 75-year-old billionaire. PW Insider is reporting that McMahon simply does not want to do interviews anymore, which explains why fans have seen him less and less in recent years, as his TV appearances have also decreased significantly. It was further reported that McMahon has no desire to be on the company conference calls anymore either, which is understandable considering his age. If you've seen any recent interviews with the chairman, such as on A&E's recent Stone Cold Steve Austin documentary, you can tell that the boss isn't comfortable, as his body language and the fact that he's always moving clearly shows. McMahon's last TV appearance was at WrestleMania 37, where he welcomed fans to the event, but it seems like fans may have seen the last of him on TV. Even if his time on television might be over, Vince McMahon will still run the company to the best of his ability and will remain a huge influence in the company in the years to come. One thing we imagine the boss is happy to talk about is the sellout crowd of 51,350 fans who attended both nights of WrestleMania 37, but that number just isn't the case. That figure was always suspicious given WWE's history of inflating attendance numbers, as well as the fact that there were a lot of Night 2 tickets available mere hours before the show. Now, the Tampa Sports Authority, the entity that manages Raymond James Stadium, reports WWE had 40,806 individual ticket sales for WrestleMania 37. These ticket sales drew $6.2 million at the gate, and as for the actual attendance figures, 18,328 fans filled the stadium for Night 1, whilst Night 2 had 18,924. Giving us a total of 37,252 combined fans. That's 14,098 fewer than WWE claimed, and in the past, the company has said that the reported attendance numbers are for entertainment purposes only. Whilst 37,252 isn't the number WWE wanted, it's still the most fans they've had in over a year, but even that couldn't stop WWE from fudging the numbers. More from AEW, and although Joey Janela is used to putting his body on the line in the ring, that doesn't mean he's so reckless on the road. On Twitter, Janela shared the story of a recent trip to Jacksonville when the hood of his car flew up and smashed his windshield, causing him to pull over on the side of the road. Fortunately, the story has a happy ending as the AEW wrestler praised what he called a cigarette-smoking angel who tied the hood back down, allowing him to continue to Jacksonville. Hopefully, this is the last incident like this that Janela has to deal with, and it might be a good idea for him to ask Tony Khan for a raise, as he doesn't need to drive a car that's literally falling apart. If you were watching WWE from 2006 to 2008, you may remember Kenny Dykstra, aka Kenny of the Spirit Squad, who returned to WWE briefly in 2016 during The Miz's feud with Dolph Ziggler. Now Dykstra, wrestling under his real name Ken Doane, announced his retirement from wrestling, saying in a statement, "I've decided to retire from in-ring wrestling. When I started at 13, I thought I'd retire at 40, but smart investments over time have allowed me to be done now. I'm in my prime, and that will go towards my family and being a father. Thanks to the fans who stuck by me." That doesn't mean he's leaving wrestling entirely, as he could still appear at fan conventions and meet and greets, but it seems the former tag champion has no regrets about stepping away from pro wrestling. And we're ending with news from Batista, who is best known outside WWE as Drax the Destroyer from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but the animal may soon be heading to DC Comics. Speaking on a panel at JusticeCon, Justice League director Zack Snyder spoke about Batista, saying how they're figuring out a way for Batista to play Bane, the incredibly strong, incredibly intelligent foe of Batman. The animal himself has spoken about his desire to play Bane in the past, and the character would be a perfect fit for him nearly a decade after Tom Hardy donned the mask in 2012. Batista has proven he can play comic book characters and can prove he can play a villain like in the James Bond film Spectre, and it may only be a matter of time before the animal uses his muscles to break the Batman on the big screen. News for today, please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.